Welcome to this explainer, okay? Today we are unpacking something absolutely game-changing for Indonesia's higher education. We're going to break down a highly urgent policy proposal that's aimed at totally transforming the Indonesian academic ecosystem. We are talking about a complete root-to-stem overhaul of how university lecturers are paid, promoted, and supported. The old system is basically breaking under its own weight right now, and this proposal outlines 3 revolutionary changes for academia designed to fix it. So let's just dive right in.
Let's start with a massive reality check. Right now, many lecturers, especially those at smaller private universities, are pulling in a base salary of maybe 1 to 3 million rupiah a month. But here's the kicker. The system demands that they publish in international journals just to keep their jobs or get a promotion. And those publication fees, also known as article processing charges, they can cost up to 50 million rupiah out of pocket. Literally, imagine being forced to pay 10 times your monthly salary just to do your job. It's a completely crushing burden.
So, what happens when you have a broken incentive structure like that? Well, the damage is severe. We've got 13 top Indonesian universities currently flagged on the Research Integrity Risk Index for questionable publication practices. And why is this happening? Because nearly 53% of lecturers are essentially forced to self-fund their research, dropping an average of 44 million rupiah of their own money. When you push underpaid academics into a publish or perish corner, the result is sadly inevitable. You get an incredibly unhealthy culture riddled with plagiarism, ghostwriting, and salami slicing, which is basically chopping one research project into multiple, super thin papers just to hit administrative quotas.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the academic quantity crisis. Then, we'll break down the 3 major changes for academia: abolishing publication bonuses, the best 5 system, and welfare and bureaucracy. Finally, we'll look at the actual roadmap to reform.
All right, part 1, the academic quantity crisis.
To really understand this crisis, we just need to look at what the leadership is saying. Stella Christie, the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology, hit the nail on the head. She said we must create an ecosystem that incentivizes quality and not quantity. And the proposal notes that Deputy Minister Fauzan completely backs this up, stressing that research absolutely has to have a real, tangible impact on society. It can't just be this endless numbers game where academics turn out low-quality papers to check a box. The leadership knows the current system is flawed.
Which brings us to part 2. Change number 1 for academia: abolish publication bonuses.
Okay, under the old setup, universities would literally hand out cold, hard cash, anywhere from 15 to 50 million rupiah, as a bonus for every single article a lecturer published in an indexed database like Scopus. Now, on paper, that sounds great, right? But it actually created a totally perverse incentive. Academics were driven to publish anywhere they could, including in predatory, low-quality journals, just to get that cash payout. So the proposed new system is making a bold countermove. It completely bans financial bonuses tied to publication quantity, and they are serious about this. If a university violates this ban, they could face massive sanctions, up to and including losing their operating license.
Now, you might be thinking, wait, is all that funding just gone? No, absolutely not. Instead of handing out bonuses for sheer volume, the proposal pools those funds into competitive research grants and highly selective subsidies for publication costs. But here's the catch. It's only for peer-reviewed, genuinely impactful work. And this isn't just a shot in the dark. It is a proven strategy. The authors point to China, which implemented a very similar policy banning financial bonuses for publications. And you know what happened? Their global research impact absolutely skyrocketed, while unethical academic behaviors plummeted.
Moving right along to part 3. Change number 2, the best 5 system.
If you wanted to become a professor under the old rules, you had to grind through this brutal system to collect 850 or credit points. It basically forced people to pump out dozens of mediocre papers just to tally up points. Well, the new proposal scraps that nightmare entirely. Instead, they want to introduce what's called the best 5 system. When a lecturer goes up for promotion, they only submit their 5 absolute best publications from their entire career. Quality over quantity. This brilliant concept is actually heavily inspired by the National University of Singapore, or NUS, which has used this exact framework since 2002 to climb right to the top of Asian university rankings.
But how do you actually measure what the best is? Well, the proposal outlines a 4-tier journal system, again taking a page right out of the NUS playbook. Journals would be tiered into 4 categories. The top 5% are classified as premium. The next 10% are leading, the next 25% are reputable, and the remaining 60% fall into others. Publishing just one incredible paper in that top 5% premium tier would carry massive weight in a lecturer's best 5 promotion package. It entirely flips the script. It forces academics to ask, how meaningful is my research, instead of how many papers can I possibly publish this year?
And getting promoted wouldn't just be about locking yourself in a lab anymore. The grading becomes way more holistic. Those best 5 publications make up 40% of the grade, sure, but teaching quality takes 30%, community service and social impact takes 20%, and academic leadership accounts for the last 10%. It creates a much more well-rounded academic ecosystem. And honestly, here's the best part for the lecturers themselves. By cutting out the endless point chasing, this streamlined approach could drop the time it takes to become a professor from a grueling 13 to 15 years down to just 8 to 10 years.
All right, part 4. Change number 3. Welfare and bureaucracy.
Look, you simply cannot demand world-class research from someone who is struggling to pay their bills, right? That is exactly why this proposal demands cutting the crushing administrative burden, known locally as the BKD, by a massive 75%. We are talking about going from over 40 exhausting bureaucratic indicators down to a maximum of 10. Academics need their time to actually teach and research, not fill out endless paperwork. At the same time, the proposal demands the strict, full enforcement of Ministerial Regulation Number 52 of 2025. This would finally ensure fair, livable base pay for all lecturers, regardless of whether they are civil servants or not.
And the financial backing proposed here is seriously massive. The policy outlines a professional allowance equal to 1 times the base salary for all lecturers and an honorary allowance of 2 times the base salary for professors. On top of that, to fund actual, meaningful research, a giant 1.8 trillion rupiah injection from the LPDP fund will be made fully and transparently accessible. Also, to make sure junior faculty don't just burn out on day 1, they're introducing a compulsory senior to junior academic mentoring program. Just another fantastic concept borrowed directly from the National University of Singapore.
Finally, part 5. The roadmap to reform.
So how and when does all this actually happen? The authors of this policy aren't messing around with a slow 10-year rollout. They are proposing a hyper-aggressive 3-month timeline. They want this moving at lightning speed. Month 1, the ministerial decree gets signed and a national socialization campaign begins immediately. Month 2, the infrastructure is prepped. Every university builds out its journal tiering database and simplifies those administrative forms. And by month 3, full ground-level implementation. The best 5 system goes live, financial bonuses for sheer volume are officially banned, and those LPDP research grants start landing in the hands of the academics who actually need them.
They have also baked in some really strict accountability. They aren't just implementing this blindly. Within the first 6 months, they expect to see some very specific, measurable targets hit. They expect publications in predatory journals to plummet by 50%. They expect citation quality per article to shoot up by 30%. They want overall lecturer satisfaction to hit above 70%. And amazingly, they want the excruciatingly slow promotion processing time reduced from up to a year down to just 3 months. This whole framework is highly focused on rapid, accountable results.
Which really brings us to the ultimate question posed by the source material. Will Indonesia remain a country chasing quantity or become a nation building quality? By aggressively moving away from a broken, bonus-driven publisher or parish culture, the architects of this proposal envision a radically transformed, thriving future for Indonesian academia. It's a system aimed at genuinely supporting educators with livable wages, real research grants, and a true focus on meaningful impact. But it all comes back to that one core question. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. See you next time.